Some people ask ridiculous questions like, what's the best card out there? You got to realize that all of the banks there's certain products. There's about 7 to 9 different types of products. Those ones are the best banks that offer transfer points. And so you accumulate a lot of points, but then afterwards use it through their transfer partnerships.
Yeah. That's a stupid strategy. It's the reason why I've never done it.
What we teach is how to get up to $500,000 with interest rates as low as 0%. They said it was impossible, and my stubbornness kept on fighting for it. It's B and then 4 R's. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat.
We've had 50-some podcast episodes, and our stories are very, very in line, and I've never had anybody open up with theirs like this. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Leads to Deals podcast, where we're going to talk about everything from leads to deals and everything that we talk about leads to deals. Who's this podcast for? It's for you, my listeners that are looking to better their lives, better their financial situation, and master the art of communication through sales and entrepreneurship to become a multi-millionaire many times over.
Let's go.
I know you're going to find tremendous value in today's podcast, guys. Here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do it now. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Click that like button. It's your way of giving me a high five through this TV, through this computer, to let me know that me and my guests were able to provide you value. Today's episode is also proudly sponsored by the best data company out there for all things real estate. Whether you're an investor, wholesaler, mortgage refinance company, or even a solar sales team, if you cold call, if you drop mail, go to synergydata.io. It's only $199 a month for 10,000 free records. You can get credit scores. You can get all the distress flags you need to target the right sellers. Visit synergydata.io. Today's episode, we have a true expert in real estate and credit secured strategies, right? A tremendous background in sales, known for his mastery in leveraging what I would call non-traditional credit to fuel his real estate investments and even the BRRRR strategy. So not only does he have the successful credit repair business, but he focuses on teaching people credit hacks so that way you can use that leverage to build your own 7-figure real estate business, or maybe even just use those credit points for cash, travel, and even property purchases, all through this like strategic thing that he's got. So I'm super curious to dive in more in this. I want you to proudly welcome Brandon Elliott on the Leads to Deals podcast. Brandon, thanks for coming out, brother.
Scott, what's happening, man? I'm excited to be here, brother. I appreciate you giving me the platform.
Yeah, man, dude, I've dug into this a little bit. And so I'm really kind of hell-bent on, in 2025, increasing my investment portfolio. And what I love about what I've started to do some research on you is like, this is some non-traditional ways, I would say, to like be able to buy properties. And so, or even just be able to maximize what I'm doing over here. And so that's like building up my credit and having these credit cards, et cetera. But before we talk about how you're going to help me build a bigger portfolio than I would have had in 2025, I need to know a little bit about you and your sales. I saw that you did Kirby. How the hell? First off, tell everybody what Kirby is for a 20-some-year-old kid who has no clue when they say, oh, he's a Kirby sales guy. What is it?
Yeah, so back in the day, I was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. They hated when we called it vacuum cleaners. You never called it a vacuum cleaner.
What did you call it?
It's been so many years. I forget what it was. It was like a whole house cleaning instrument. Like you needed to put this thing on a damn pedestal. You know, if you put it like the regular little vacuum cleaner in the closet, it was not good. I cut my teeth on that, but I just learned a tremendous amount of door-to-door experience and training every day, and just being a savage with it. And so I got really good at it. I was knocking doors, getting my whole crew into doors, and then I would get a compensation off of, you know, whatever they closed, but I would cherry pick ones that I felt confident I connected with, and I would just do my presentation.
Was it your first door-to-door job was Kirby?
It was my first door-to-door job, but being very truthful with you, I grew up a screw-up. I grew up in New Jersey, single-parent mother, manic depressive bipolar. I met my father when I was 18 in court so he could stop paying child support, you know? So I grew up in a household that there was some drugs. I don't recommend it now. It's one of those things that, you know, you just use it for an escape, right? To numb. But realistically, basically I used it back then, and I grew up poor, like American poor though. Like I totally, there's a big difference, ladies and gentlemen. Like American poor, we grew up on food stamps, we grew up on Section 8, we had help around Christmas time and holidays from local schools and churches, like very blessed by all means.
What part of New Jersey?
South Jersey, like exit 17. So once I smoked weed for the first time, I was like, hey, I want to do this more. But I also realized like, hey, I'm broke. Like I got to be that guy within my small circle to be able to sell it to them so I could smoke for free. It just naturally clicked, you know? I went down this rabbit hole doing that very frequently. I didn't know any better. Like the ignorance was so strong. It was awesome. It worked out in my favor. I just kept on taking as much money as I got, and I went back to the guy and get more, and just kept doing that. And 4 or 5 months into it, I'm walking away with pounds of marijuana that would take me longer to get rid of. But I was like, oh, I got all this. Let me see how I can get rid of it faster. It turned into a bad spiral. I don't recommend it, but it also, that helped me learn body language from people. It helped me learn communication, and it was something easy to sell because people wanted it. But at the same time, I had to negotiate at certain things. I had to build value. I had to, get top dollar and so forth, and then save money when I went back to the guys. So that was the beginning stages.
We've had 50 some podcast episodes, and our stories are very, very in line. And I've never had anybody open up with theirs like this. But dude, like you're saying, it also teaches you entrepreneurship. It teaches you how to get in front of the customer. It teaches you a work ethic. And so I think for a lot of people, and I grew up Richmond, Virginia, so maybe a little bit different, but what I at least know from being in or seeing similar situations is it gives you a great appreciation for, like, that's the only vehicle available to you to get money.
Yeah.
And so when I got into the REI space, I was like, man, you know how many dumb things I did at that exact age that you were talking about? If I would have known, I could have not gone to the plug's house and picked up something and I could have just put a sign on a light pole that said, I'll buy. What I hope to inspire people over time is there's so many people who don't even know these industries and what you're going to say, their mom's credit card and some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, you want to make 10,000 legit dollars and not be worried about what your rearview mirror is? Here's this opportunity here, but you get to learn the art of persuasion and you can get better at it, et cetera, et cetera. So I love it. So from that to like somebody pitched you, somebody had to have closed you on why you should be going door to door selling fucking vacuum cleaners. So how did that part happen? How did you go from degenerate to degenerate selling vacuum cleaners?
Still a degenerate, honestly. Truthfully, nobody sold me on it. I got tricked into it. I was at a very low point that I moved out to California. I was doing more dumb stuff out here, trying to run away from my problems in New Jersey. And I was at a low point that I was like, man, I need a job now because, things weren't working out. And so therefore, I went on Craigslist and I found something to like clean carpets. And I was like, screw it. Like, I'll clean some carpets if I have to. And so I went in there and they totally like bamboozled me and like totally did the little switcheroo. And I didn't even realize it until like a week or two in. I'm like, oh shit, I think I originally joined to clean carpets and now I'm getting commissioned to sell this thing. But it worked out. Like, I liked it. I like sales. I enjoyed it. And the presentation, it was a very systemized thing. They had the math down. Like, hey, if you just do 3 presentations a day, you're going to walk away with 1 deal. That was it. And so I got good at that and it worked out.
So before I got my first sales job, Brandon, I was working at an alarm company. I was installing alarms. And ultimately that changed my life because I installed an alarm at a sales center. And I was like, why are all these young kids so rich and driving nice cars? Like, I want to do what you guys do. But before that light bulb went off, I remember being in these like really high-end homes installing security systems because you're either super poor or super rich when you need an alarm, right? The middle doesn't there. And I was in this really high-end house and like, you're taking your shoes off and it's just what I would have considered a mansion, but now it's just like a upper middle class. And I remember this guy came to the door with this big old vacuum, but it was like a vacuum on like crack. It like had all these hoses and attachments. And this guy came in looking like really sharp. And I just remember watching this guy commandingly walk into this fancy fucking house. And I was like, how does he have an appointment? It blew my mind that somebody set in an appointment in advance for somebody to come to their house to sprinkle shit on their carpet and then get it up. Like, I'm going to destroy your carpet and then show you how good it is by removing it. And I just remember being so impressed, like what America is, that you can convince somebody to come over to the house, screw up their whole living room and then solve it for them and then leave out of there with like thousands of dollars vacuum cleaner. It's like not a couple hundred, it's thousands of dollars.
Dude, I was selling it for $3,500. Like it's mind blowing. And as a young kid, it was remarkable to me. I just couldn't even imagine it, but it was a process. process. And I got so damn good at, I could hit you with any rebuttal. Like I could build value so easily, and the confidence and the cockiness, like it was so strong at a young age because of the process, just brought so much conviction to me.
So one of the things I read this quote a long time ago. It wasn't even in a sales book, but it was Jim Purdue, the guy who's now like the son of Purdue Farms, the chicken. He said, if we can build value, something along the lines, if I can build value in a chicken, you can build value in any product you have. And that kind of sat with me. I was like, you know what? He is selling chicken and he's created a differentiator. Purdue. It's the name you know when you go to the grocery store. It's the only chicken name you know when you go to the grocery store, but he was able to create that. And that makes me think of the vacuum cleaners like Kirby. It's like, it's the Mercedes of the whatever. And it's like, you have a Kirby vacuum. And so what I found is ultimately my journey ended up being timeshare sales. I installed a security system at a timeshare sales company. I was 20 years old and I saw these kids making money and it just blew my mind. And so I immediately dipped out. But the people that they loved to hire the most were Kirby vacuum cleaners. If they could recruit somebody from Kirby to timeshare, or even vice versa, I'm sure, because those two, it was Xerox, like the generation before me. Like if you were a Xerox printer guy, you were like the man. Like you could sell anything. You had been through all the best training. Then it was like Kirby as well too. Kirby then it was kind of like the next phase. And so you just have, and what I try to tell people is these jobs, whether it's timeshare or solar door to door or Kirby door to door, the fundamentals are universal of a sales presentation. They're universal. And once you master those, you have them for any product or any communication that you'll have for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's so true, man. I'm very blessed for all that training. And something that kind of wore me out is I started caring too much about other people around me and realizing like the cycle. There are so many people that couldn't last. And so I'm making friends with people and I'm also like trying to spend more time with them to train them up to do well, taking away from my results. And then they're leaving a couple weeks later. And so that just started burning me out.
Yeah, turnover is vicious, and really any sales, you know what I mean? And that's why I try to tell people today, I said, you know, it's something like 70% of all sales guys don't even ask for the business. I literally had a meeting on this today. I was like, we're not order takers in this company. We're closers. Even if you're closing somebody for a lead, you're still closing them on taking this action while you're at today. I don't need more salespeople. I don't need more presenters. I need closers of whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're asking for a credit card, asking for an appointment, asking for whatever. And so anyways, I know that I was super blessed because those few years of timeshare sales, selling air that nobody wants while people are kidnapped for 90 minutes really gave me like a really, really good perspective on human psychology and how to present an offer and position an offer. And I took that with me to ultimately many journeys. And then here I am in the REI space. So how did you ultimately go from slanging cleaners and vacuums to, where did you go first? Did you go like credit or real estate or flipping? Like what's your kind of REI journey?
So so my journey was this. I was still a big pothead. You know, I ran away from all my problems back home in New Jersey because I started having people rob my house before Christmas, guns to my head, knives to my throat. Yep. It just started, you know, New Jersey's a violent place in individual type of, there's not so many gangs, it goes individual craziness. And so I got out of there. I went to San Diego and I became a wholesaler for selling, like taking marijuana and sending it back to the East Coast.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was the first time I found out about wholesaling. But realistically, I ended up having an explosion out here in San Diego in Pacific Beach, making hash oil like a moron. So I blew up my apartment. I was on fire. I had 40% of my body burnt. And so I was induced into a coma. I went through 3 surgeries, had to learn how to walk again. It was just a crazy experience.
How old when you were in having to learn how to walk again?
It was 2013. So I was 23. It was an experience for sure. And I was just so embarrassed. Like that was the biggest thing. It's like, I knew better. I knew God always had blessings over my life. And I always like pushed it to the limit. He still protected me that day. Like I got skin graft on my arms, but I was wearing baseball gloves. Like I don't even like baseball, but I had gloves on. I just didn't want to get my hands nasty. So just wild stuff. The clothes burned off my body because I was on fire. And so I knew that I had charges against me coming up. I knew that there was going to be some huge consequences. And so I was fighting that in court for 2 years. I ended up getting 2 felonies, a misdemeanor. Just a few months ago, I finally actually got all of my felonies expunged.
Nice.
And they said it was impossible. And my stubbornness kept on fighting for it.
Good for you, bro.
Yeah, man. It was like, it's almost a 10 years kind of anniversary coming up. And it was just one of those things that like, it was still holding me back in certain ways that I don't want to have to tell my kids that in the future or explain how I fought to correct it. And so long story short, I just knew something had to give. And when I'm laying in that hospital bed for 3 weeks, I was was like, man, if I am like slightly intelligent enough with no like guidance, like I knew I needed a male figure. I knew I needed somebody to speak life into me. And I knew that doing the solo route, it wasn't beneficial. But if I could be successful doing this negative stuff, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I wonder if I got the right guidance or if I got like real mentorship, what that would look like from somebody that's already been there and done it. It just clicked for me. And so I started reading, I started diving into books, and then court actually made me have to get a mentor, if you will. It was like a sponsor. And so that ended up like, it was the first time somebody actually looked at me and like saw more in me than I saw in myself. And it just started switching everything. And so I fell in love with real estate because I got recruited when I was actually doing the door-to-door Kirby vacuum cleaners into a real estate company. I knocked on somebody's door and they were like, dude, you got to work for me and we're doing real estate stuff. You're going to make a lot of money. And I said, cool, let's do it. I learned some education, got motivated, but realistically, I just saw the systems in place and it was so attractive. Like the money and the impact that was being made. I went down a rabbit hole for 2 years. It took me 4 hours every single day, no exaggeration, 4 hours every day for 2 full years. I was studying and geeking out on real estate stuff. And so I fell in love with the BRRRR strategy, but to be able to take down territory, I had to do credit cards. I didn't know how else to fund it.
So I want to go back though, that door that you knocked on, had that guy not been home, or let's just put it a different perspective, had you woken up shitty from the day before? Because sometimes you have a bad day and you carry yesterday into today, and you maybe don't go up to that driveway, or you maybe don't actually make it out of the house, or you maybe, like if you hadn't have knocked on that guy's door, do you think you would have ended up where you're at today?
It's such a good question.
Do you know if you would have found real estate or not?
I don't know. I really don't know. I know I wouldn't be happy because where I was used to just doing like restaurants and servers and some construction, like that's what I was used to. And I wasn't happy with that. And so I would like to think that somehow I would get into real estate. I found out that my grandfather did real estate after I started doing it. I was like, oh, that's kind of unique. But yeah, I didn't have anybody in my family that was doing it. I didn't have any friends that was doing it, so I was very blessed to be able to get that opportunity and just to see what was possible and get inspired from it.
Brandon, I didn't find real estate until like 5 years ago. So I made all my money in other verticals, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the first things I had to grapple with when I bought my first home. And it was a jumbo, I remember it was a jumbo loan and it was really, really good and really good rate and all this other stuff. I couldn't understand the concept because I'd never had any money. And when I had money, I had been so painfully in debt so many times that as soon as I got money, I refused debt. I ran from debt. I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. You're like, oh, I got a $2 million loan or a $1 million loan. I'm going to pay this bad boy off as fast as possible. And everybody in my world, particularly from the real estate space, is like, you're a moron. What are you doing? And I'm like, no, you don't understand, bro. I don't want to owe anybody. I don't want to owe a man. I don't want to owe a bank. I don't want to owe a human, because I just came from that place where we didn't have any money. And then to struggle, you ended up having to borrow money. And it was such a pain. Like I've been to payday loans and the Indian loans and all the Amscots and all this other shit just to be able to make ends meet. As soon as I got money, I refused to have a loan. And it took really years to fucking break that mindset of like, it's okay. So did you struggle at all with the credit, or how did you understand it so fast?
It wasn't understanding it so fast. I was just really frugal. I was really like, I had a cheap and poor mindset. I was like, dude, I know I want to get real estate. I know it takes money to it. I didn't realize, like, I didn't think anybody, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. Like, nobody's going to give me money. That's not what people do, like
exactly.
Nobody's giving Brandon Elliott some money. So therefore that wasn't even a thought, consideration, anything. I figured you just got to go to the banks. And so I was going to the banks, but I didn't qualify for anything. I was working restaurants and under the table type of stuff. So on paper, it showed I made like 30 grand a year. And that's probably like generous, honestly.
Yeah, sure.
And so realistically, I just started going down this rabbit hole, credit cards, because I saw, well, there's 0% interest right there. So like, well, how did that work? And I just naturally did certain things that are right by like every 6 months requesting a credit limit increase, using my cards heavily. And so as a young kid around that age, I had cards that that were like $60,000 limits. And so I actually used this method once when I got robbed for drugs in the past, and I wanted to come back, and I liquidated my cards into cash, 20 grand, bought a bunch, sold it, and then paid it off. And I was like, whew, it worked out, you know? But then I figured, what if I can do this, but just not pay any fees and do it for real estate? And then the BRRRR strategy, it made sense to me. I was like, well, I can remodel this and then refinance it after. And that's what I did.
Because we appeal to a lot of people who may not necessarily be real estate specific, walk us through what the BRRRR strategy stands for and like a high level BRRRR.
Sure. Yeah. So it's B and then 4 R's. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. Basically what it is, it's like a fix and flip, except instead of selling it at the end, you're going to keep it. You're going to get a well-qualified tenant for it, refinance it afterwards because now it's producing, it's stabilized and doing well. And the whole goal is, instead of getting a one-time pay that you would do on a fix and flip and have to pay taxes on that, instead, you're just going to refinance that and get, typically the banks will give you 70% or so of what the appraised value is. So the whole goal is to get all your money back, if not more, and then a small mortgage on it. It rents out for a lot more. You're cash flowing, you get tax benefits, the whole nine.
Well, so let's focus on the B, the buy, the acquire. So you're starting out, and obviously you're working for somebody else. I'm sure you're able to see, and you're leveraging, you're saving some money, et cetera, et cetera. But how are you and your strategies and your credit business, and what's the name of the credit firm again?
It's Credit Counsel Elite.
Okay. So how are you like instructing or showing people to cover the B in the acquiring part? Because, you know, once you got some renters and you can refinance, like that's all I think secondary. The hardest part, is the acquisition. So walk us through B.
Yeah. So buying the property, first off, I needed to find a good location that matched up with my overall strategy, right? Because the BRRRR strategy doesn't work everywhere. But for this, I found a location in Ohio that had job growth, population growth, and something unique about it. And that stood out to me. So once I found the location, I started making calls. I started building relationships over there, using my sales skills to like network and just build relationships with brokers, Chamber of Commerce, like the local schools, everybody. And I had wholesalers and everybody else sending me these leads, and I just started underwriting them. When I got something in contract, then the whole goal was to get it under contract for little down and as long as possible for due diligence and closing. So it bought me time so I could breathe, because your first 1 to 3 deals, you're going to be freaking out, shitting your pants, you know? But it's just because you haven't done it yet. So once I jumped in there, I started, how I did it was I ended up figuring out how to liquidate credit cards into cash at 0% interest.
And how do you do that? Because I get credit cards that are like, I have my Amex and I have a couple other cards, but I've never even once conceptualized, other than like using my own merchant, like, here, let me go charge myself $30,000, which would be murderous in fees. How in the hell do you pull even cash off of a credit card?
Yeah, and not just to save anybody else, because I guarantee it, somebody listening here might actually go do that. You want to be cautious. Don't go jumping into that right away. You could get your account shut down, your merchant.
Yeah, for sure.
And also get your merchant account blacklisted with your name on it. So like you won't be able to set up a merchant account in the future. Okay, so be careful.
Yeah. That's a stupid strategy. It's the reason why I've never done it. But I just, conceptually, it's the only way I would, like, how in the hell would I get cash?
Well, most people are going to think the same thing. And that's why it's like, you just be careful, people.
Don't do that.
Because every time I say something like this, like somebody does something stupid, takes it out of context, and it could, don't cry back to me later. It's going to be a mess. So there's many ways to do it. Honestly, so you could use plastic, Milo. You can use actually merchant accounts. There's companies out there, even our company at Credit Counsel Elite, we offer you the option to liquidate the cards for you with the processing fee. Otherwise, how I've always done it is take advantage of promotional rates, promotional deals behind the scenes that are either considered like a cash advance or a balance transfer, but at the 0% opportunity. Okay. And so the banks, especially the big banks, a lot of them will offer it. I've done it with Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi, Capital One. Like a lot of these big guys will do it.
Are you waiting to see something from them, or are you just contacting them like, hey, I have this Chase Sapphire, I got great credit, a great history. I'm just contacting them up and saying, hey, listen, I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. What kind of promotions do you guys have? Is that how that conversation more or less starts at a high level?
Great question. Yes. So that's what I did originally, but I also set myself up for success prior, just from my, like, the books and podcasts and YouTube I was geeking out on. Like, I mistakenly and also aggressively going down this journey of education was setting myself up for success. So the average person doing it on their own, yes, you can call. I do recommend it, but they may be looking at your relationship with them and be like, no way in hell, dude. Like, like not even a second thought. So there's ways to position yourself properly it's like the banks and lenders, there's actually 43 different metrics on how they're judging you. And so it's really, really imperative for you to understand that so you're not screwing yourself over.
And so part of Credit Counseling Elite, that is, I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of people who you have to fix some stuff first before they can even embark on this journey. Is that something you're also helping people understand, like, hey, you screwed up 3 years ago, here's all your 90-day marks or whatever, and strategizing with them that way?
Sure, yeah. So at Credit Counseling Elite, our main bread and butter is really teaching the person to get out of their 9 to 5, or, business owners that are looking to grow, those guys to be able to get up to 500,000 with interest rates as low as 0%. This is repeatable every 6 months. So it's crazy. But part of doing this is like how we set ourselves apart is really we're a one-stop shop. So education is very crucial. You got to learn it. And then next, fixing is a big piece of it. Some people come to us that they're in really good shape, even in the 800 FICO score already. Believe it or not, even those guys, there's something small on it that needs to get fixed, such as cleaning up some old outdated personal info and so forth. So we show you that whole process. Next, we'll show you how to boost up your score after it's fixed, get to the 800 club, stay there, knowing why you're there, and then actually put anywhere from 10 to 40 or even 50 plus cards in the right order.
I'm going to make you repeat the number here again, but when you said it mentally, visually, I got a video in my head of like people throwing tomatoes at you because it sounds so preposterous. What is your pitch again?
I'm talking about these, baby.
Hey, wait, those are all business cards. Those are not credit. No, I'm just kidding. But can you say that number again? In other words, you guys have a concept to get up to or whatever, but say that most preposterous number again.
Yeah. So what we teach is how to get up to $500,000 with interest rates as low as 0%. And this is repeatable every 6 months. Now, the 0%, this is where it catches people off guard. Just for full transparency and clarity here, the 0% can range anywhere from 6 months up to 22 months. On average, it's about 18 months. But you can do it every 6 months. I mean, it sets you up for per person.
So one of my questions coming into this is like, why this over hard money? Why this over a DSCR? Potentially why this? Or is this the bridge to get to that? Like, how do these two relationships work?
It's leverage at the end of the day. So I've done both, and I've done combination at the same time. At the end of the day, I like the opportunity because for like a backup plan, if you will. Most people don't have a backup plan. They have plan A, and then in real estate, for my personal experience, I've done this a couple dozen times now. I got 20 something properties. By all means, I've never been a part of one project that it went exactly as planned. There's always something that comes up. It is what it is. And that's okay. But it's okay because I've had backup plans, and you got to pivot quickly. And the people that fail, in my opinion, they didn't have a plan B, C, D. They jumped to Z right away and just like, oh shit, burn down the bridges, Oh. And so there's another piece to it too. It's like you can leverage to get your foot in the door at 0%, which is awesome. But on top of that, contractors as well. Like we've all been screwed over by contractors in the past. I have, and I pay with credit cards now, and it gives me protection, but it also gives me points that I can pat myself on the back with a nice vacation and treat my bride, after we get done a project and like, man, that feels good. Let's go on a free vacation. So we love traveling. We do first class, all the whole nine, and it feels good.
So I want to pivot into the points usage of it here in a second, but I want to give some people a little bit more substance without going into the sauce. But the whole proposal is, if I'm summarizing here, is an outsider, literally an outsider looking in and saying, okay, hey, listen, you're going to learn and or follow the best practices to maximize your relationship, posture yourself as a card holder to de-risk yourself so they're willing to give you some of the most favorable plans that they have, for lack of
100%. Right? Yep.
Okay, cool. And then I'm using that money, that cash that I'm having access to that came from this credit line. I'm using this for my down payment on a larger note. I'm using this for the whole acquisition fee. And you're telling people, hey, so that's why you want to get homes that are sub 200, or like, where do you see this really being used at on the acquisition side? Like, hey, not in San Diego because the homes are 1.2 and 20% is going to be 240. And
well, I still actually use it in San Diego as well. I do get a hard money lender, but my other portion that I got to come up 200 something thousand, I can use my credit 0% interest on it, so I can just leverage and I can do more deals because of that, right? Without actually having my own skin in the game, if you will. So you could do that. We've had members buying real estate over in other areas that it's under 200, 300,000. We have members that are doing hard money loans. I do that frequently as well. We also have members that like to double dip in life insurance policies where you can fund the life insurance policy and then with infinite banking and then take a loan out against, get 85 to 95% of it back within 10 days. I mean, there's power behind this that it just gets you started. And somebody that actually has like deals passing them by, this is for them. Like this is for them because the opportunity is passing them by and it's just because they need more capital.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, I speak with a lot of people and have a lot of guys who are in the wholesaling space.
Yeah.
And, one of the things about a wholesaling space, I think it's a multifaceted like business strategy. You got a couple of different things you can do with it. But the average journey is start wholesaling and then become an investor. Sometimes it works backwards, right? Because you've over leveraged on the investor side and you just need cash. Yeah. But if you start to think about how many deals that you've sold, you also have to put into perspective how much those guys made. And not all of them, but if you don't have the ability to cherry pick the ones that are destined to fall into your lap, you don't have this as a resource, then you're really missing out on so much more cushion in your everyday life to be able to build this. Everybody says, I'm getting into real estate for generational wealth. Well, not if you're just a wholesaler, brother. Yeah. You're just paying bills.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just trying to get stay afloat here. At the end of the day, I think about it like Shark Tank too. And I don't want to discount Shark Tank because there's, Mark Cuban, there's high level people on there that like have, that are the mentors that can guide people, right? But like, I don't like the idea of giving away 20, 30, 50% of my business from the start. I believe in mentorship, but I'll pay for that. I'll have full equity of myself and I'll pay 50, 100 grand to any mentor that I believe I can get an ROI from all day. But now I still have ownership of my business that has been thriving. And I've seen other people give an arm and a leg of their business thinking that it's going to solve all their problems. It's like, dude, you may just be partnering up with the wrong fool that's going to make more problems for you,
I'm curious with all those cards there, like I have something called Monarch, which used to be Mint back in the day. How are you keeping track of everything in a consolidated place?
Yeah, that's a very common question that we get regularly. Yeah. It's very simple. It's just a spreadsheet. And we are actually, we're developing an app right now that's going to just systemize it more in like a sexy version and just make it for our members to make it really cool. But it's really simple. It's a spreadsheet and you keep it in order. I'm not using all of these cards. Sure. I'm not using all these. I use maybe about 10 on every, given for businesses and so forth. All the others, I have a reminder once or twice a year to go to the dollar store and rack them up so that I can just have some transactions so that they don't close down the account.
Sure. For a guy like you with all those benefits, let's talk about that because I'm the people that Amex love. I literally just logged into my Amazon account and it was like, do you want to use this $6,000 in conversion from Amex points? It's over 1 million points and it's 6,000 and some dollars. And I'm like, no. But also every time I buy a flight, I never touch my Amex points. I never touch any of my other credit cards, airline miles. So how am I screwing up? And what is like the easiest thing that I can do? Like, hey, Scott, you want to go somewhere? Convert this and do this and do like, where am I screwing up? Help me go world-class Emirates the next time I got to fly around the corner.
Let's go, baby. So there's many ways to do it, honestly. First off, you got to think about the cards that you want to use. So there's 4 main banks that are great for travel hacking. It's going to be Citi, it's going to be Capital One, it's going to be Chase, and it's going to be American Express. So those ones are the best banks that offer transfer points. And so you accumulate a lot of points, but then afterwards use it through their transfer partnerships. At the end of the day, what you want to focus on is, it depends on where you're going first off. There is an app that is really useful that you can check out. It's points.me.com. That one, it's just a no-brainer. It does all the math for you. Like you can just tell them where you're trying to go. And at the end of the day, it will tell you, hey, what cards do you have? How many points? And then it will show you, do you want to fly first class or business?
Sure.
And so it will tell you where to transfer it. That is the biggest obstacle most people have when they're trying to begin travel hacking, but it can be really simplified with that app. So that's a huge, just like run with that, use it, because it will make life, instead of getting too complicated.
And do you never just use the direct card itself? Like I just flew American Airlines on the way back, and they're pitching you on the whatever Visa, American Airlines. You're always kind of taking it out of the card and converting it directly to the airlines. Is that the concept?
Yeah, so that point right there, the airline credit cards are trash. Like
Really?
trash.
Bastards.
Yeah.
They get free advertisement every landing before you land.
Of course.
Walk up down the aisle, free 2 tickets, round trip, domestic.
Yeah, and you'll get that, but check this out. It comes down to they are devaluing their points on those cards frequently. And so for Delta, like everybody and their grandmother has a Delta card, it sounds like anymore. And so it used to be maybe like 100,000 points for a first class flight. Now it's like 400,000 points. Why? Because there's 1 billion plus points out there with all these millions and millions of card holders. The more card holders, the more points, and then they devalue their points. So it's not the way to go. You want to use one of those 4 banks so that you can transfer it. And I get first class flights for like 40, 60,000 points. It's a no-brainer. We did first class from Emirates, a 16, 17-hour flight, first class with a shower, caviar, like you name it, and it's like 80,000 points. It's dumb. It's wild.
And I'm one of these guys too. Like, I'm cool, babe. Where you want to go? Like, I'd put it in this app, I guess, and then just say, hey, you want to do Tahiti Thursday or whatever? Like, why not? So that's a really big value add, the points.me.com. So I'll play around and go on that. One of the things that I don't, so I have gold and platinum Amex, and I don't have any of the other cards. I'm using my gold for my AdWords spend, any of my digital marketing spend.
Perfect.
And I'm using my platinum for, I guess, just normal life. That's really it. And I guess to get into the airport lounges, I don't have black yet, but I guess I'm doing the right thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So the platinum card, really, you should be using that for anything more than 5,000. Or if you're going to purchase a flight, you can use that card if you want to purchase it instead of using points. Because sometimes it's better if you don't know how to use the points and get the most out of it. Like the first class Emirates flight that I was talking about, if I didn't know what I was doing, it would have cost me nearly 2 million points. You know what I'm saying? Like, stupid. Don't waste your points. I'd rather you just bank it. And if you use that card, you get 5 times the points. So adds up.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
But you're doing great with the ads because you're getting 4 points back on that one. Anything under 5,000 on the platinum, though, you're only getting 1 point. So there's other cards like the Blue Business Plus that you can get 2 points on. And that should be like the everyday spend.
Do any of the cash back cards like Apple, any of these, do any of those actually matter out there in this space, or is it all just pure marketing fluff?
No. Some people ask ridiculous questions like, what's the best card out there? And you got to realize that all of the banks there's certain products. There's about 7 to 9 different types of products as far as a cash rewards, a travel, like a hotel, cash, like insurance cards. There's all these things. And so they all have a different bank that has a competing product, right? And so the cash back cards are great if you're using it on certain products that you can get cash back from. If you want cash back, when you actually travel a lot, like I do, and I'm sure you do as well, if you like traveling, you're going to want to put it more or less on one of those 4 banks that you can use it for transfers. And it just sets you up for like, dude, we haven't paid for a flight in like 5 or 6 years. It's always first class. I send all my employees as well as like my family first class as well. And then also the hotels, we get the same thing. We get Marriott passes as well. So it's like 90% off. And so we're really just paying for experiences while we're out and about in different areas and food.
So I was debating if I was going to share the story, and I think it's really indicative of why guys like you are important from a mentor standpoint for other investors, et cetera. But so I've been in the RIA space, like I said, for about 5 years now, primarily as my agency service. But I also have 2 business partners in Central Florida, and we do investing locally there. Our first year in business, we took down 20 some properties. The next year was a little bit less. The next year was a little bit less. And really what ended up happening as we got so busy running the business, we actually paid less attention to the underwriting, and we got more hooked on the drug of the wholesaling fee. And I saw 2 deals come by my desk the other day. I was like, oh, we actually took down 2 properties in like 2 weeks. And the hard money loan company that we worked, we got these at so far under 70% that they ended up funding essentially 100% of the deal. We just had to come closing costs and some points, et cetera. And what made me so irritated though, I said, well, wait a minute. Because we ended up paying like $5,000 in total to get $200 on a loan, and then $24,000 another one to get $400 on a loan. And I'm like, wait a minute, we've had access to this for the past 5 years, and we haven't been, we just haven't been paying that much. And I've lost my shit with my business partners. But it's the same thing here. It's like, I got a wallet full of credit cards. I didn't know. And so it's that whole thing about being an entrepreneur. You don't know what you don't know. And that's why I think guys like you are really important, especially for people who don't have that liquid capital right away and they're in this space and they want to go direct to seller, or they can find and source good deals. You're giving them a way to get a cheaper ticket, but still sit on the front line of the game, right? Like you're giving them access to a game where otherwise they may not be able to have the resources to, and might not even know it exists.
Yeah. And that's what, like, I appreciate you saying that, Scott. At the end of the day, like most people just don't even realize that this is an option. They just don't know. And so that's why I'm very passionate about it, because real estate changed my life. Credit was the thing that did it, right? And so that's just how I feel behind it. And if people knew about that, if they were teaching this stuff in school, this is just a creative spin behind it. I just got creative with it because I was cheap. Like I had a broken mindset. I didn't want to pay any fees and I didn't know any better. So I just got creative with it. And so it's we're in school and maybe at like our homes when we're talking about finances around the table, the mindset around credit cards, it scares the shit out of people. And I get it. If you don't use it properly, if you go buy the $20,000 Gucci sweatshirt when you can't afford it, you're going to be in some trouble. But at the end of the day, if you're using this responsibly, it's just good debt versus bad debt, and you're doing it, in a positive mindset.
You know what? Even as I was debating on, guest rosters, and I saw you on there, full disclosure, I said, man, I'm aware enough of what afflicts different cohorts of the United States, particularly the urban community, right? Because, I'm just plugged in online or friends or whatever, and I see a lot of these credit repair scams, and I'm gonna call them a scam, or these telling people to go deposit a fake check into their credit union and then pull out the cash, and like all these really terrible things that you see. As a matter of fact, the number one guy on OnlyFans, he's a guy from Atlanta, and he literally he doesn't sell anything naked. The number one guy, he sells a credit repair business. And so I'm curious to get your perspective on it, because you're on this like, hey, how to leverage your credit to actually go buy something real. What is going on in the credit industry that's created this thing of scams? Like, I can clean your credit, I'll do this. What's happening over there?
Yeah, it's a really horrible space, unfortunately. I really hate the fixing part of it. I really do. I absolutely hate it. And most people are over-promising it, under-delivering, and it's just a mess. And that's why the FTC is all over it in many ways. Like, it's just a nightmare. What I would say is this: most people don't realize that it's illegal to promise anything or give any guarantees when it comes down to credit repair. Why? Sure. Because you're not just talking about the banks, the lenders, the 3 credit bureaus. There's thousands of third-party agencies involved, and they all need to legally comply with your demands and your requests and requirements. And sometimes they give a lot of stall tactics. That's just what it is. And so the good news is this: you can't guarantee any time behind fixing credit, but the good news is, in my personal experience, anything and everything can be challenged and over time actually improved, removed, cleaned up, anything and everything, which is crazy. Things that should be on there can be cleaned up. And the reason behind that is these companies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, they're the ones hosting it, but they're just like you and me. They're just like a regular mom and pop company that blew up, and they make mistakes every day. And statistics show at least 50%, 50 to 70% of credit reports are all inaccurate anyway. There's something wrong on there. And also with so many data breaches, just this past year, there was just like a huge scandal that on the black web, everybody's information, 2.7
Social
billion.
Security Administration got hacked this year.
It's
insanity.
Yeah.
Everybody's Social Security numbers online.
Everything. So it's like, don't ever be too cautious about like your stuff. It's already out there. Like if somebody wants it, it's out there. But what I can tell you is if you stay persistent, if you stay in a good community that can actually guide you properly, and you actually go after this, and you can use ChatGPT a lot for things if you know how to guide it properly for fixing related. But then afterwards, getting the true facts on how to position yourself to get massive amounts of funding, that's where like nobody in the game can compete with us. We have some of the people that I look up to that crush it in maybe business credit or other, travel hacking. They reach out to us because they know that we get the results.
Well, what I'm excited about is I have a lot of followers followers that are also customers, et cetera. And then these guys are spending a lot of money a month on our services. I take credit cards every month and people are spending money. And it's like, okay, well, if you can put $20,000 a month on your credit card, I know you have multiple credit cards and you obviously have a limit that allows you to do tens of thousands of dollars. But I just don't think so many people know that the light bulb can go off that, hey, I have this other resource. And when I'm in a crunch and maybe the deal doesn't look as good on paper to my hard money guy, but I'm confident enough that I'm willing to go out on a limb and I have this other thing, which is not predicated on the value of the house itself. It's predicated on my relationship with the credit card company. And what I choose to use those dollars on is my decision as an entrepreneur versus going to my hard money loan. He's not really worried about me. He's worried about my portfolio and that house I'm looking to go get. So it really is a really unique perspective that you're bringing to the table. So what is it that you offer? Is it a community? Is it a coaching? What is it that this Elite Credit Counseling is?
Yes. Credit Counseling Elite, we have both. We basically walk with you as a do it with you service. I truly believe you can't outsource your push-ups. So we're not going to do it for you. I feel like it would be such a disservice. That's how I actually started doing this because I saw too much of the do it for you. And I thought of it as a mess, getting weak results. So we show you how to do this. So every 6 months, you can do this for yourself, for loved ones, friends, family. Like I'm only one person, but I got a big mission to help out a lot of people, leaders, be able to do this for their community as well. And so at Credit Counseling Elite, people can check it out. We have a quick 5-10 minute video on there that explains more. Just going to www.creditcounselingelite.com. There's a quick video that explains more. And then afterwards, they can book a call with either me or somebody on our team to deep dive on their situation and where they're trying to go.
Cool, dude. I love it, man. I think that for everybody out there who's letting deals slip through their fingertips and or you're confident in your sales and communication skills and maybe you just need a little bit more of a jump start for your marketing spend and you're disciplined enough about it and you're not going to go do something stupid, right? Like we're not trying to give you guys a loaded gun for you to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yes.
You know, let's be mature adults here. But it's a great opportunity for those who are disciplined enough to be able to give themselves more tools in the tool belt. You're not going to use it on every deal. You're not going to use it on every marketing channel, but just to know you have it as a backup is a big deal. And I'll put it in a little bit different perspective. I also do a mortgage refi campaign here. And so it's this mindset where people are like, hey, we can tell how much credit card debt people are in, how many open lines that they have. And they're literally struggling to make their payments. They're late. They're paying late fees. Their interest is 20. I mean, they're like screwed. And conceptually, that light bulb hasn't gone off in their head like, your house has $400,000 in equity. It would actually be cheaper to just pull out a HELOC of $150 and pay down your cards. But until we get them on the phone and pop that idea in their head, they're struggling. And so that's what I feel like you do. You put an idea and execute.
Bro, you're preaching to the choir. It's like I've seen people with the money that they need to pay off their credit cards in the bank, but they're paying 20% interest over here. And it's like, but I won't touch that savings account. It's like, dude, you're paying an arm and a leg. Get it, save yourself. And so it's wild.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's a crazy world out there. Where do we go to? What's the website? What's the IG? How do my people go out there and follow you in your journey, number one? And then also, man, learn more about what it is you offer.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, check us out you can follow me on IG, Brandon Elliott Investments. Otherwise, our business page, it's Credit Counsel Elite. Otherwise, if you're looking to really get truly educated on this information and be able to implement it yourself for you, your loved ones, family, future, then check out creditcounselelite.com. It's www.creditcounselelite.com. Again, it's a quick 10-minute video on there. It's going to answer a lot more questions that I'm answering here for you. And then it's going to prepare you for better questions to ask on a one-on-one call. So would be honored to serve you and all the listeners there.
I say this from the bottom of my heart. I've spoken to a couple of guys adjacent and or in this industry. You by far are speaking the most transparent about it and the clearest about it and with the confidence that be like, okay, cool. Yeah. It's worth your 10 minutes to go to this website, check it out, and then just see how you feel after that. So, and I don't get any endorsement for saying, I'm just telling people like this, I can tell this is a high quality, already done thing. This is not something that you're talking about doing. You've been doing this. And for everybody out there who's struggling to build their portfolio, stop wholesaling every damn thing that you have. Let's acquire one or two here and there. I don't give a shit. There's a pathway to it. Don't let 2025 be 2024.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I appreciate it.
Really, man, dude, I appreciate you coming out, brother. Keep in touch.
All right, likewise, man. God bless.
Thank you, man.